I remember when this maid ended up looking at me. I am not joking. She ends up telling me that I need to take a bath, and she walks into the bathroom, and what she does, well, it took cleaning to a whole new level. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy but also super embarrassing story. Now, this story takes place all back when I was in grade 11. Now, in grade 11, since I was in high school and I was a teenager and I was being really dumb all the time, I was a real mess. No joke, my car was a mess, except when I was driving a girl somewhere. But my room was always a mess, and everything else in my life was always a mess. No joke, I would never clean. I would always sit and play video games, and I guess occasionally do homework. Not really, to be honest, because who cares about school? Just kidding. Stay in school, kids. Don't do what I do. But I remember it got to a point where one day when I came home after school, I remember going up to my room, and I didn't do my laundry or anything, and my mom walks into my room, and she looks at me saying, "Bubba, what are you doing?" "I'm just gonna hop on my Xbox and do some homework." "Why? What's up?" "Clean your room, please. Clean it." "Mom, I'm busy." "No, you are not busy. Clean your room, please. Put away the clothes. Clean up. Don't make me get someone to do it for you." At that moment, when she said that, I ended up yelling back at her saying, "Mom, I know what I'm doing. How about you clean it?" And that's when she turns around and says, "Okay, I'll get someone to clean it. You want to talk back to me? I will get someone to clean it." And that's when my mom ends up going downstairs, opening her laptop, and she goes on this site where she hires a maid. Now, I've had many maids back then, but after my last one, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have the best record with them. But I remember my mom knew that I really did not like maids, and she ends up hiring one anyway. And literally, not even joking, that Friday, when I had plans to game all night, I ended up getting a knock on my door. I opened my bedroom door, and I end up seeing it's a woman. Except this woman was one of the finest women I've ever seen. No joke, like, I don't know where my mom got this maid from, but she was hot and she was glorious. Like, I remember I kept looking at her and I'm like, "Oh, okay, like, hey, like, who are you?" And that's when she says, "I'm here to clean your room, silly. Can you quickly move?" "Oh, okay." And I remember when she looked at my room, she like basically gasped for air. Apparently my room was that messy to the point where she was disgusted. So she ends up looking at me and she's like, "Oh my goodness, do you never like clean your room? Like, what is wrong with you?" "I do clean my room, just, you know, I've been busy." "Busy doing what? Playing your dumb video games? You should clean your room more often." At this moment, when she was talking back to me, I was really confused because, like, where did my mom get this maid? Like, she's hot, but she has an attitude. Like, seriously? You couldn't have one or the other? You had to get both? So I remember I start getting annoyed and I go up to my dad and I tell my dad how this maid's annoying. And my mom ends up interfering with the conversation saying, "Don't say anything. He did not clean his room. I get someone to clean his room." And my dad just shrugs at me because he doesn't want to argue with my mom, which, to be fair, no one does. And that's when I just ended up accepting the fact that I had a maid until things got weird with the maid. Because I remember me and this maid would always butt heads at random moments. Like, for example, when I was in the kitchen, all of a sudden she wants to clean the kitchen. And for example, when I wanted to watch TV in the living room, she would end up coming to the living room, turning off the TV and wiping it down at random moments. I'm not joking. I think she cleaned the TV like 3 times that day, which, don't get me wrong, you don't have to clean a TV that much, but seriously, it got to the point where I knew she was trying to annoy me. So I thought one of the smartest things I could do is that if she wants to be able to clean everything in the house, the one thing she can't clean is me. At that moment, I decided not to take a shower from that day. It was the weekend, so no one's gonna smell me except her and my family, which, to be fair, I don't think they cared enough. So at that moment, I remember after 3 days of not showering, she started to smell me and she started mentioning, "Bubba, you should just take a shower. Bubba, something smells. Is that you still? Bubba, can you please just go take a shower?" And she would always say this at random moments, and I knew my diabolical plan of not showering was actually working, which sounds disgusting, and everyone, please take a shower. I just took one, so you should too. Anyways, it got to the point where I remember this babysitter was so upset that, like, I wasn't showering, and she would always, like, toss me a towel after doing laundry, telling me, "Bubba, can you quickly go take a shower, like, right now? Bubba, go take a shower." And she would always get, like, super upset with me at times because, well, I was doing the one thing to make her upset, and that was not shower. Once again, she can clean everything, but she can't clean me. After 5 days of not showering, yes, I literally skipped school just to make this maid mad, she ends up walking up to me and pulls out $100 in cash. And she looks at me saying, "Bubba, I'll pay you $100 just to take a bath." $100? "Yes, now please go take a shower." And what did I do? Well, I'm not gonna say no to money. Like, I was a teenager. Money is good. So I took the money. I ended up going to the bathroom. I locked the door. Then I turned on the shower and decided not to get in it. Yeah, I just left the shower running to make her think I was showering, and I left it on for like 15 minutes, turned it off, and I walked out of there as I was pretending to dry my hair. That way she wouldn't question why my hair wasn't wet. And I remember after I ended up basically doing that, she comes into my room and she smells and she says, "Did you shower?" Yeah, totally." "Bubba, did you not shower like I told you to? I gave you $100. "Yeah, I know you did. and it's still mine because I went to the shower. I didn't actually take a shower. At that moment, she was so mad at me, she started yelling at me. And it got to the point where my parents had to get involved and basically make her leave the house. But she wasn't fired in any way because she did actually such a good job of cleaning our house. But this is where the story gets freaky. Because I remember the next day when she came to my place, she ends up cleaning up my room first thing. And that's when she looks at me and says, can you please just take a shower? Like, I beg of you, please. Oh yeah, then what do I get? You take a shower, I'll double up the money, and I'll give you $200. Okay, $200? Once again, I wasn't gonna say no, but she wanted proof of me actually taking a shower. So at that moment, since I actually started to really badly smell, I decided to actually take one. I'm not gonna lie. It was free $300 I made that week. Like, I'm not gonna say no. So I ended up basically getting my stuff and getting ready for the shower. And I remember once I decided to draw a bath instead to, like, you know, feel more of the vibes of soaking in my own filth, she ends up coming into the bathroom as I'm literally not wearing anything, sitting in the tub. And she says, are you actually taking a shower? What? No, I'm taking a bath. And like, what are you doing in here? Oh, you're taking a bath. I love baths. That's great. Now, can you leave me alone? And she starts looking at the bath and she starts to realize that I didn't actually make a proper bath. If anything, I made just a pool of water because I didn't know how to use bath soap at the time, I guess. But that's when this babysitter ends up getting soap and she ends up basically mixing the pool of water that was in my tub. And she says, Baba, you're not even doing this right. You need an actual bath. Here, let me just help you. And she ends up stirring a bunch of bubbles into my bath. Literally, she made my bath while I was sitting there not wearing anything inside the tub. Super weird, I know, but at the same time, kind of crazy. But I think that wasn't even the worst part because I remember I just sat there, just totally confused on what's going on and why she just put her hand in a place where my eggplant was close to. And that's when this babysitter looks at me and says, are you not gonna rub yourself? Seriously? Do I have to do it for you? Wait, what? And that's when this babysitter actually ended up taking off all her clothes and literally started to come into the bathtub with me. She was sitting next to me in the bath and I'm just like, okay. What are you doing here? Well, I'm obviously gonna make sure you're staying clean. And she starts cleaning me. The one thing that I did not want her to do that entire week, she ends up actually cleaning me. Kind of crazy how this maid literally went from cleaning my bedroom to cleaning my underwear drawer to literally cleaning my entire body. Like, bro, what? At that moment, I remember I just sat there awkwardly and got bricked. And she looks over at me and she's like, oh, you feel like that now with your maid? Yeah. And yeah, not gonna lie, we ended up doing the Devil's Tango. No surprise, I know, but you know, just saying. Anyways, going on with the story, after that bath, I ended up basically walking out of that bathroom surprised, but at the same time pretty happy because I just did it with a hot maid. And yeah, I went to my room. I basically cleaned up my entire bedroom from then on out. And well, since I was cleaning my bedroom because I wanted to help the maid, yeah, my mom thought it was a good idea and I learned my lesson and she got fired. Since I was cleaning my room and helping her to be nice and spit riz, my mom ended up firing her. I guess I should have just let her clean my room. I remember I finished my shower and I put my towel on, but I put it on pretty loosely. And then I ended up walking into my bedroom and out of nowhere, I ended up seeing my maid. My maid looks at me out of shock and says, oh wait, Bubba, is that you? Oh my goodness. Because I got so scared to the point where I didn't even notice my towel dropped and she saw my eggplant. And what she said after was super sus. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a super embarrassing but crazy story. And this story all takes place back when I was in high school, and this was my grade 10 year. And back in my grade 10 year, I remember me and my family, we lived in a giant house. I don't want to say it was a mansion, but I could easily say it was one of the bigger houses in my area. And I remember when me and my family first moved there, we knew that it was gonna be really difficult to make sure everywhere was clean, especially knowing that my mom works full-time, my dad works full-time, and well, me and all my other siblings would always be at school, so we would never actually have time to actually clean the house other than late at night. So I remember one time at dinner, I ended up sitting with my family at our new place, and I remember when we all sat down, my dad looks at all of us and says, guys, I'm going to be honest, we all know that this is a bit too much for us, so I'm going to order a maid. When he said he was gonna get a maid for the house, I remember my mom started panicking, freaking out about what if, you know, the maid was trying to steal something, or, you know, the maid is super like weird and awkward. But me, I didn't really care. From all the cartoons I used to watch back when I was a kid, having a maid was kind of a flex. Like, who doesn't want to have someone just clean your house for you? So I remember I was totally okay with the idea, and so were my siblings. It was only my mom that was a little suspicious, but hey, at the same time, what are mothers for? And well, one thing led to another. I remember we ended up getting a maid literally that weekend. I remember that weekend came around, and basically on Friday, I ended up walking home from school. And right as I got to my driveway, I saw there was a vehicle there that I've never seen in my life. And when I looked around it, I saw there was like cleaning supplies in the back, so automatically I just assumed, oh, it's probably the maid. I ended up going to the front door and I ended up seeing a lady waiting there, just standing in like all white clothing, and she looked really, really young. Like she was young enough to look like she was still in high school. And I looked at her and said, oh, are you trying to get inside? Oh, yeah, do you live here? I'm supposed to like start cleaning, but no one's answered the door. Oh yeah, sorry. No one really hears the door because the house is actually pretty big. I can open it though. I ended up opening the door for her and I ended up basically introducing myself. She ended up giggling and laughing, and for some reason she thought we were like super rich people, which in reality we really weren't. We were just lucky to have a big house. When I was explaining all that though, my mom ended up coming up to me and saying, oh, Bubba, is this the maid? Huh? Yeah, Maid or whatever your name is, meet my mom. And from there, my mom and the maid were having a conversation. But I remember as I was walking away, the maid just kept staring at me as if she really wanted something from me. I didn't know what, but when I looked back, her eyes were always directly on me. And even my mom figured that out. I remember when I went into my room, I ended up just hopping on my Xbox and started playing video games. And I want to say like 10 minutes later, my mom ended up actually knocking on my door. She knocked on my door and said, Bubba, can I come in? Yeah, mom, what's up? Oh, Bubba, I saw the maid was looking at you. Did you guys say anything? No, she was just, you know, talking about her work. That's basically it. Why? Bubba, I don't want you to do anything weird, okay? Be a good boy, please. I remember I ended up telling my mom I'll be fine and how I'm not gonna do anything crazy. Like, don't worry about me. But this wouldn't be a story if I didn't. Let's just say things didn't turn out the way she wanted. Because I remember a couple days goes by, and one thing I started to realize was that my maid would always end up coming into my room when I was in there. If I wasn't in my room, she would not even dare to come into the room. So in my mind, I was thinking, oh, maybe she does that because she knows she needs to, like, you know, gain the trust of us and that she's not a thief. So she does it when we're around. But every time I talk to any of my siblings or my parents, they always told me, oh, I never see the maid, to be honest with you, Bubba. I always forget she's here sometimes. And that started to kind of worry me because why would I always end up seeing the maid, but no one else in the house would? It kind of got me thinking. But at the same time, I didn't want to think too much about it. So I remember the next time my maid came into my room, I ended up basically standing up and leaving the room. But right as I was about to leave, she looks at me and says, oh, why are you leaving? Oh, I was just gonna go get some food downstairs. Oh, do you want me to make you something? You can do that? I mean, I'm not really supposed to, but I know your kitchen pretty well now, and honestly, I'll do it for you if you want. Knowing that she wanted to cook for me, honestly, it was really hot. I'm not gonna lie. And to be fair, this maid was attractive. So knowing that the way to my heart is through my stomach, I ended up telling her, yeah, sure, we can go make something if you want. So me and her, we ended up going downstairs, and she ended up making me a basic grilled cheese. Except the way she made grilled cheese was way better than I did. Because back when I was in high school, I would literally just get bread, put cheese in between it, and basically put it into the microwave to melt. But this maid did it the proper way, where she would put on a pan, put butter on it, and all that good stuff. So I remember when she handed me the grilled cheese, I felt like a king. It felt so good to eat that grilled cheese, you guys have no idea. And I remember in the middle of eating, I remember she decided to sit down across from me and she asked me a question that I was pretty surprised of. Because she looks at me as I'm eating and says, so Bubba, I was just curious, do you have like a girlfriend? Oh no, to be honest, I've been focused at school and stuff, and I don't know, I'm not really like trying to look for a girlfriend, I guess. Okay, that's very interesting. And I'm not gonna lie to you, when she said that, she was smiling as if she just figured out she won the lottery. It really made no sense to me why she was super happy about that, but honestly, the only reason why I said I wasn't looking was because, to be honest, with all the girls I meet up with nowadays, I would just do the devil's tango with them. I wouldn't actually look for a relationship. But I guess she took it the wrong way, as if I wasn't looking at all and that I was basically keeping myself pure for my wife, or apparently, or something like that. Which, for all the people that watch this channel, you guys know that is far from true. Anyways, going on from there, I remember I went upstairs and I went back into my room and started playing video games again, and at the same time doing my homework. And I remember midway through, my mom ended up coming into my room with my dad at the same time right behind her, saying, me and your mother are leaving the house. We're going to be leaving you alone at home, so just keep yourself safe, okay? Okay, yeah, I don't mind being home alone. And that's when they went downstairs and they ended up leaving. I remember I heard the door close, and that's when I decided to basically go and take a shower, because I thought, hey, you know, no one's home. I might as well just go take a shower. Who cares? So I remember I ended up taking off all my clothes in my bedroom, and I basically ended up walking, absolutely with nothing on, by the way, towards the bathroom. When I got into the bathroom, I did what I had to do. I took a shower, I just relaxed, I just did my thing and kept myself clean. Because, you know, every person needs good hygiene. Back when I was in high school, I would shower basically every day. Actually, still to this day, I shower every single day. And right as my shower was over, I ended up basically putting on my towel and walking down the hallway back to my bedroom. But once I walked into my bedroom, out of nowhere, I ended up seeing my maid in the room which I thought she wasn't even in the house in the first place. And I freaked out because I said, oh, hey, I didn't know you were here. And right as she turns around, she starts to basically freak out at me because she saw me shirtless. And then that's when I ended up dropping my towel. And well, yeah, my whole eggplant was out. And the reaction from my maid was the most awkward thing ever, because I remember she looks at me and looks down at my eggplant and says, oh, wow, it's actually bigger than I thought. Wait, what is what I said? And that's when she gets closer to me. And well, me and her, we started making out. And I think you guys know what happens next, but we ended up doing the devil's tango. I guess from her seeing my eggplant and seeing how big it was, she automatically just wanted it that bad. And I remember even after us doing the devil's tango, as we were laying in my bed, she turns over to me and says, Bubba, I'm not gonna lie, like I've always had an eye for you. Like you're so perfect. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, like, so I was just wondering, like, what are your plans for the future? Oh, what do you mean plans? I mean, like, what are you studying in university? University? Well, I mean, nothing yet, because I'm still in high school. Wait, what? At that moment, I remember she gets up and she puts on the towel that I left on the floor that I dropped earlier. And she's like, what do you mean you're in high school? Like, are you serious right now? Yeah. Why? Is that a bad thing? And I remember she starts panicking. She starts freaking out. She's begging me not to say anything to my parents. And I told her I'm not going to say a word. And I told her I promise to never speak of this moment ever in my life. I remember my maid ends up coming into my room and she starts acting really weird around me. And that's when I finally asked her, hey, like, is everything all right? Like, you seem very odd since the last time I saw you. Bubba, can we talk about something? Yeah, sure. What's up? And that's when she pulls out this box that had a pregnancy test on it. And apparently, that's when she told me that I got my own maid pregnant. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to a super embarrassing, but I gotta say, crazy story. Now, this story all takes place back when I was in high school, and this was my grade 12 year. Now, in grade 12, I really had no plans for my future, nor did I know what I wanted to be. Like, if someone went back in time to my grade 12 year and told me that I was going to become a creator online that told embarrassing stories 24/7, I would not believe them whatsoever. But I remember this one time in my grade 12 year where basically I was heading home from school and I ended up walking in my room and throwing my bag across my bedroom to basically sit down and start playing video games. This was something super common that I would do all the time because gaming was like my #1 thing that I would always love to do. And then I remember as I was gaming, out of nowhere, I ended up seeing a woman come into my bedroom and she just started to make my bed. I didn't recognize this girl, and that's when I started to freak out saying, wait, yo, who are you? What are you doing here? Oh, hi, I'm your new caretaker. I'm just taking care of the place. Oh, like you're house sitting? Sorta, but not exactly. I'm kind of like more of a maid. Oh, okay, well, like I've just never seen you here before. Did my parents hire you? Yeah, your mom called and said like they're going out for a bit and like they needed someone to like watch over the place, but like they knew that you didn't need a babysitter, so they just wanted me to come over and start cleaning the place at random moments. Oh, okay, so you're just gonna come at a random time and just start taking care of the place? Yeah, and just don't worry about anything. Don't worry, like I'm not gonna get in your way or anything. I'm just gonna make sure the house is clean and I'll just leave. Sure, I mean, that's fine, thanks. At that moment, she ends up cleaning my room and she ends up leaving, and at that point I started questioning, who in the world is this woman and why would she come at random moments of the day? Like, doesn't that kind of invade my own privacy? I have really no idea, but she had a house key, and I mean, my parents trusted her, so did I really have anything to worry about? Well, let me just say this now, yes, because I remember as days went on, I remember the next day when I came home from school, I noticed that my parents were still not around, and I barely saw my parents growing up, I guess, which sounds really sad, but at the same time, they were both really hardworking parents, so I don't blame them. But I remember I ended up going into my bedroom and I did the same thing. I started playing video games and kind of doing homework at the same time. And then once again, I ended up hearing the front door open, and that's when I basically went on my staircase and looked at the front door to see who it was. And it was basically the maid once again. She looks up at me and says, oh, you're here again? Yeah, I kind of live here. Yeah, but like, don't you like go out and do stuff? Yeah, I always go out and do stuff. I just, right now I'm taking a break from doing stuff. Oh, okay. Well, cool, I guess, is what she told me, questioning if I was actually cool or not. And she ended up basically start cleaning my house. At that moment, I kind of just decided to like kind of linger around her and see who she really was, and kind of decided to start a conversation with her, where I ended up saying to her, so I'm just curious, like, how old are you? Oh, I'm only like 21 years old. Oh, okay. Why? What about you? Oh, I just turned 18. Oh, okay. That's awesome, is what she told me. And from there, since she knew I was of age, I guess, she started hanging out with me a lot more and started basically talking to me about boys' life, how college is too expensive, and all this basic stuff that adults would talk about right after they graduate high school. And when I told her I was in grade 12, she asked me the same question that over a million people ask you when, you know, you're graduating high school. And that is, so like, what are your plans for the future? Now, at this moment, I didn't really know what to do because at the time, I didn't really have a job and I was planning on doing construction. information. So that's what I kind of ended up doing like months later. But at that moment when she did ask me, I had no idea. So I ended up just telling her, oh, I don't know. I might go to school for like business or something, or I don't know. I'm really good at just playing video games. Baba, that's not a job or a career, silly. Playing video games, like you need to get yourself into actual work. Yeah, I know. Eventually I will, is what I ended up saying, because well, back then becoming a creator online wasn't really a thing that was possible for everyone to do. I remember me and her, we ended up going upstairs to my bedroom and she started cleaning my room as I played video games. And she started to watch me play actually for a bit. And she was actually pretty entertained by my Call of Duty skills. And that's when she looks over at me and says, so like, Bubba, are you like dating anyone? No, I'm single. I'm kind of just, you know, getting single for college, I guess, is what I told her, even though I never actually ended up going to college. But me and her, we started speaking more about like, you know, relationships and stuff. And she told me how she was single and she wanted to find a boyfriend, but let's just say she didn't have the best luck, which I really didn't understand how, but I didn't really care. And then I want to say the next day was the most bizarre day of my life, because I remember the next day I went to my house and I, you know, threw my bag across the room as usual, and I went to go take a shower. And the only reason for that was because I smelled really bad after rugby practice. So I went and took a shower. I got myself cleaned up, and right as I put my towel on, I basically walk out of the hallway to go to my room to get changed into actual clothing. But right as I was halfway down the hallway to my bedroom, I ended up seeing this girl come out of my room, and she looks at me totally shirtless with only a towel on. She sees me and goes, oh, hey Baba, I didn't know you were home. Yeah, sorry, I just went to go take a shower. Oh, okay. You look good. Thanks. I'm only wearing a towel, is what I told her. And I ended up basically walking past her and going into my bedroom. When I walked into my room, she ended up following in right behind me, and she just kept staring at me. And I looked at her and I'm like, do you need something? And at that moment, she just came up to me and kissed me. From there, we ended up doing the devil's tango. And it was so, like I said, bizarre and super out of left field that happened. But I mean, I wasn't complaining. She was attractive, and also like I was hanging out with her a lot. You know, I guess there was some form of connection, at least so I thought. I remember 2 days went past and she would always do this. She would come over to my place, clean up the house, do the devil's tango with me, and then she would leave. But then after a while, I remember after 2 days of this happening, my parents ended up coming back home. They came back home from their trip, and I remember the maid started to come less and less, to the point where I didn't get to see her as much, and we didn't do the devil's tango because, well, obviously my parents were at home. There was no possible way to do it without getting caught. And this is where everything just went bad, because I remember I came home from school and it was a Monday, and basically I was super exhausted from practice and just school in general. I laid on my bed and just laid down, closing my eyes, thinking that I could take a quick nap before I start playing video games. And then out of nowhere, my maid walks into my room. She walks in and she starts like basically panicking somewhat. And I look at her and I'm so confused, and I say to her, hey, like, is everything all right? Like, you seem off. Baba, we need to talk about something, okay? Sure. What do you want to talk about? Okay, I need you to look at this real quick. I remember she sits down right beside me on my bed as I'm laying down, and she pulls out a pregnancy test, and she looks at me and she starts panicking. At that moment, I started panicking because, well, I was only 18. Like, there was no way I was ready to be a father at any point given. So I look at her and I'm like, wait, so is it positive? I mean, it says it is, and like, I don't really know. What do you mean you don't know? Is it positive? She pulls it out and it says it was positive, but me, I was freaking out. And that's when I looked at her and said, okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. When did you take this test? I don't know. I took it like 4 hours ago. Okay, here, follow me. I remember me and the maid, we ended up going inside my car and we drove over to our local drugstore and we bought another pregnancy test. And from there, she ended up going to the bathroom and she took the test literally at the store. I remember I was sitting in my car panicking as she went to go do that. And right as she came back, she sat down beside me and she just sighed out of relief. I didn't know why, because like I was still panicking. So I looked at her and said, wait, can I see the test? Is it good? She ends up handing me it and we waited just a bit more just to make sure the pregnancy test was like accurate. And then the test said it was negative. At that moment, I was confused because I didn't know if she was positive, if it was negative. Like, I just didn't really understand. And then that's when we decided to go to a doctor and actually get like a proper confirmation, since, I mean, in Canada, it's free healthcare. So why not? And we went to the doctors. We got a quick test for her once again by an actual proper doctor. And luckily, the doctor said it was negative. She wasn't actually pregnant. I remember my maid ended up talking to the doctor saying, oh, like, but like the first test was positive. Yeah, don't worry, ma'am. Some tests are like that, but you just don't need to worry. Sometimes it gives a false positive. And that's when I remember sighing out of relief knowing that I wasn't going to be a father. And I was just so happy. Like, you guys have no idea. But I mean, if you guys ever felt like you guys got a girl pregnant, then fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.